Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. This channel is going to just be all about the books I read, my book reviews, all those kind of things like that. So TBRs for the month, reviews for the year, my reading challenges that I set for myself, and just my reviews and how many stars I think that book got. So this first book will be talking about the 24 books I read in 2024. I originally had a reading goal of 12 and I exceeded my expectations and I read 24 books this year. So we're going to go from 24 down to my number one book for this year. So sitting at number 24 is A for Alibi by Sue Grafton. These are the Alphabet Murder series. I only gave this book a 3 stars. It's about Detective Kinsey and she has a client called Nikki Fife contact her who was convicted for murdering her husband 8 years ago, and she's out on parole and she wants Nikki's help to find the real killer. So I thought it was good, just not my type of mystery book. The next book I read was The Idea of You. I read it on my Kindle. This book is about Hayes Campbell. He's a popular guy in a boy band and he runs into this woman, Celine. She goes into his trailer. She's taken her daughter and her friends to Coachella and they just have an instant attraction. I only gave it a 3 stars. Once again, it was sweet. It made me cry at the end. I've also seen the movie on Prime, which was really good, and that made me cry at the end. It was very similar to the book. There was just a lot of French words in the book, which is hard to go back and forth translating, and it just wasn't my kind of romance. It just felt really far-fetched, but it was still a good read. The next book, sitting at number 22, I also read on my Kindle again, and it was the Britney Spears autobiography. I thought it was fantastic. She's such a great storyteller. It was just hard hearing those kind of things that she went through. So for me, that was a 4 stars. I think very highly of it. I recommended it to heaps of people. So I really liked that book. The next book, sitting at 21, is Force of Nature, which once again I read on my Kindle, and this is also a movie. It's based on Aaron Falk, who's a detective. There's 3 books in the series so far, and this one is about these people who work at this corporate job and they go on a retreat. They pick random people every year. There's a boys group and a girls group. There was 5 girls in the group, I'm pretty sure, and they went in and only 4 came out. And then Aaron is a detective and he goes over to the rangers and helps local police figure out what happened to the girl Alice and why didn't she come out the other side with the other girls. I gave it 3 stars. It's just really long, the book, because you got to read from both perspectives. You kind of read about what happens with the girls and then how Aaron is figuring out things back in with the police. But still a really, really good read. Number 20 was The Woman in the Library. It's a Australian author who wrote this book. I only gave it a 3 stars. I think it was good. It's about these people in a library and this woman screams and the security jumps into action. Everyone has to hide under tables until they figure out what's going on, and these 4 strangers happen to sit under the same table and they just start to get to know each other over the time that they've got to sit there while security is figuring things out. And yeah, they just kind of get to know each other and then the story goes from there and you're kind of figuring out what happened and why this woman screamed in the library. So next, sitting at number 19, is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. This book is about Bally and Jeremiah and Conrad and just how they're navigating their lives. It's the summers are over at the Fisher Boys house. This is the 2nd book in the series. I've read the first one and I just have the 3rd one to go. It's also a show on Prime. I gave it a 4 stars. It's very, very short, very quick, easy read, and I feel like it matches exactly the same as the TV show. So this book too pretty much matches season 2 of the show. So this one was still good. I gave it a 4 stars. I thought it was good. The next book would be number 18 on the list, and that was The Housemaid Number 2. I read it on my Kindle. I only gave it 3 stars. So it's about this woman and she just goes, the first housemaid is very similar. She just wants to be a housemaid. She applies for the job and she finds secrets in this house in the second one, and she hears the wife crying, and she's seen blood and all of these kind of things, and she's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this if this guy is hurting her, kind of thing. So yeah, I only gave it a 3 stars just because it's very similar to the first one, and I just, after reading the first one, I just really wanted to have something different to read. But it was still a good book. I still love all of those books. So next up, after Housemaid 2, number 17 is Twisted Love, the first one by Anna Huang. It's like a brother's best friend trope. There is Ava and Alex, and they've both gone through things in their life, and yeah, Alex is Ava's brother's best friend, and they just kind of come together and they start to fall in love, but it's like a dangerous love. I gave it a 3 stars. I think it's great. There is also Twisted Games, Twisted Hate, and Twisted Lies. So I'd like to read all 3 of them because they follow side characters that you meet in this book. It is a little bit spicy. I didn't find this first one that spicy, but other people have found it really spicy, but that's my opinion. So the next book, number 16, is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This book was really good. I gave it a 4 stars. It's about this struggling writer, and she gets the opportunity to go and finish off books for Verity, who is like unwell and she can't finish off the books herself. So she gets like the opportunity of a lifetime, but as she's going through Verity's office and finding, you know, things that can help her to write the remaining books, she stumbles upon things that are darker and more twisted than she ever thought. I really enjoyed it. I would just look up trigger warnings because I feel like some scenes were just quite confronting that I didn't know about before. But yeah, I thought this was a really good book too. Next on the list is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I love her books. I read Icebreaker last year on my Kindle and I loved it. I love Wildfire too. It's Icebreaker would still be my favourite. It's part of the Maple Hills series. So these 2 characters, Russ and Aurora, they have a one-night stand one night, like a drunken night, and then they end up going and working at the same summer camp that summer. It's just really cute, really sweet. I thought, you know, that Russ was a really sweet guy, a really good character. It's a little bit spicy. I wouldn't say it's too spicy, and the first one was probably spicier. But yeah, I know that there is a 3rd Maple Hills, which I have here that I'm going to talk about in books I want to read next year. So yeah, all in all, it was a good book. I gave it a 4. Next book is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which I'm reading on my Kindle. It's part of the Dream Harbour series. So The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I only gave it 3 stars. It's about this girl and she inherits her aunt's cafe. Her aunt wants her to look after it while she's taking time off, and she like struggles a little bit to get it up and going, but then she gets it up and going and she meets this guy and they pretty much fall instantly in love, and that's why I only gave it 3 stars. I just thought it was too predictable and too easy to guess what was going to happen next. Moving on to number 13. These books are going to range from 13 to 9. They're the Heartstopper series by Alice Osman, and these are also now a series on Netflix. I loved them. For number 13, it's number 4 for me, which is over here, and then number 2, which is over here, and then number 3, number 5, and then number 1 is my favourite. They're about these 2 boys, Nick and Charlie, and just how they navigate coming out with being gay, being bisexual. All of the side characters are just amazing, and they all go through their own struggles too in the series, and it's a graphic novel, so it's pretty easy to read, pretty quick, and I recommend this to everybody. It's just so heartfelt, so sweet, and just I think it's a really, really good series to get onto. So we're now going to get into my top 10 of the 24 books I read in 2024. So obviously we talked about before, number 10 was volume 5 of Heartstopper, and number 9 is volume 1 of Heartstopper. I'm not going to talk about them again because I just talked about them. but they're number 10 and 9. So now we get into number 8, which was The Boyfriend by Freida McFadden. This is a thriller. It's about this girl, Sydney, who just has terrible luck with dating. And she meets this man named Tom, and she just like is looking for a perfect date. And it says that he's looking for the perfect victim. This book just has so many twists, so many turns. I gave it a 5 stars. I was just obsessed with this book, and I did not work out the ending. It was such a shock for me. So I would really recommend this book. Next, we're going into number 7, which was Housemaid number 3, which I read on my Kindle, and I gave this 5 stars as well. And the Housemaid series is by Freida McFadden. I can't remember if I mentioned that before. So the Housemaid number 3 is about like the similar vibes again, except she's got a husband and kids now, but there's something going on in their neighborhood with their neighbors. So she's trying to figure out that this time. So I just liked it and gave it a higher rating of 5 compared to what I did for number 2, because it was just different and I was looking this time for something different. I thought if book 3 was going to be similar to book 1 and 2 again, I just probably wouldn't read it. I think there's another one coming out. It's going to be like a little one about a wedding or something like that. So I'd like to read that when that comes out. Now we're going to number 6, which I read on my Kindle, and it is the original Housemaid, number 1, which I gave 5 stars. I loved it. I just didn't expect it. She just goes and she's working for this lady, Nina, and Andrew, and as she's like doing the jobs and stuff around the house, she's just starting to like hear things, and things just aren't seeming right. Nina's been really mean to her. Andrew's like this perfect guy, but the ending just gets you. Once again, with Freida McFadden's books, I don't know how she does it, but they just always get me. There's something at the end and I'm like, did not see that coming. Just crazy. Now we're going to get into my top 5 books for 2024. So now we're going to get into my top 5 books of the 24 books I read in 2024. So sitting at number 5 is Murder Road. I gave it a 4 stars. It's by Simone St. James. I read it on my Kindle again. And this book is about these 2 newlyweds, and they're going on their honeymoon, and they're driving along this road, which at the time they don't know. People call it Murder Road because things happen on that road. Bad things, murders, hitchhikers, and all of these things. And they see a hitchhiker and they pick her up, and all of a sudden she just dies. And they're like the prime suspects because they're the ones who picked her up, and the police think it was them. And they've got no other suspects, they just think it's them. So the couple, they try and figure out what's going on with this road and track down all of the past things that have happened. And it's just a gripping book. It's amazing. I loved it so much. The next book, number 4, is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I had never read an Emily Henry book until this year. I love this book. It's about Harriet and Wynne, and they're going on like this vacation with all of their friends. The thing is though that they broke up, but they're not going to tell their friends that they broke up, and they end up just like, how long can you pretend to be in love without actually falling in love? So I just thought this was just a sweet book. It's just happy, it's friendship, it's love, and I just love everything about Emily Henry now. All of her books that I've read this year, I've read 3 of them, have been a 5 star. I just love her and her writing. The next book I read was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. I read it on my Kindle and I gave it 5 stars. This book is about, she is the bodyguard and she's got her back and he's got her heart. So it's about Hannah and Jack has this stalker and he's going off to see his family, but he doesn't want his family to clue in that he's got a stalker or got all of these things going on. So Hannah has to pretend to be his girlfriend for this time, even though she is his bodyguard, and it's a romance, and I just thought it was really nice. 5 stars. It was my first 5 star of the year. I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope next year in 2025 that I can read more of Catherine Center's books because I really, really liked this book. The next one that I read, sitting at number 2, was Beach Read by Emily Henry. This book was just so good. January and Gus, they are just adorable. They're both writers. They're both on holiday, and like it says, it's just a rom-com waiting to happen. January is like a hopeless romantic and, like narrates her life like she's like the lead in a movie, and Gus is like a serious literary type and he thinks true love is just a fairy tale. So this book, 5 stars, absolutely loved it. Now my top book that takes the number 1 spot for 2024 is People We Meet on Vacation, or You and Me on Vacation, depending what title you have where you live. This book is just amazing. It's about Poppy and Alex. They're friends. They have gone on summer trips from like 12 summers ago down, and Poppy asks Alex to join her on one last trip, and on this trip they're starting to realize, are they more than just friends? This book, I took so many quotes from it and put it on my Goodreads about how much I loved them so much. I just couldn't get enough of this story. The quotes were adorable. It made me cry. It made me like giggle and kick my feet. It was just the perfect romantic story. So you start from 12 summers ago and you read about all of their summers that they've been through together, as well as the one that they're on. So that was my top book for the 24 books I read in 2024. So to finish off this video, I thought I would talk about books that I'm excited for next year. So books that I want to read in 2025. Some of them I just didn't get to this year. I think that's what most of them are. And then there's some that are going to be new releases. So the first one is A Court of Thorn and Roses. I really want to read this series. It's by Sarah J Maas. I don't know much about this. I know that it's about wolves and dragons, and I have never read a fantasy book. So I really wanted to read my first fantasy this year. I just didn't get around to reading this book this year. So I'd really like to start. I think after I read the book I'm reading now, this will be my next book because I really want to try it and see if I like it. The next book I want to read is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I have don't know much about this either. I just know that it's about Magnolia and BJ and that it's a romance and like about how many great loves can you have in a lifetime. So I think previously they may have broken up and then they're going to get back together. So this is another book and I'd love to continue the series as well. So the next book that I would like to read next year is Daydream. This is part of I think it's called, the Maple Hill series. So I've read Icebreaker, and in my wrap up of this year I talked about Wildfire. So this is about Henry, he's a side character in Icebreaker. I don't know much about it. It's a romance. I think it's like they're in college and I think she has to help him out with a class that he's not good at. So I've heard really good things about this, and I have loved Hannah Grace's other books. I loved her other 2 books. I've thought they're great. So I think this will be a really, really cute romance. So I'm excited for this, and I hope that there's more. I don't know if there is going to be more to the series for Maple Hills. I don't know. I guess we'll see. So the next books are 2 Emily Henry books. So as you saw in my wrap up, I read Beach Read, You and Me on Vacation, and Happy Place. I'm excited to read her other ones. I don't think anything will knock off You and Me on Vacation. This is just like a top tier for me. I can't get enough of it. Can't relate more. It's amazing. So these are the last 2 that I'd like to read of her that I wanted to really get around to this year, but I just didn't. So Book Lovers is about Nora. She's a literary agent, top of her game. She's all about books. And then Charlie is an editor, and he's really good at creating these bestsellers, and he's Nora's work nemesis. So this I think will be really interesting. It's like one summer, 2 rivals, a plot twist they didn't see coming. So I'm really, really excited for this book. And then the other book is called Funny Story, and it's about Daphne, and she says that she always loved the way that Peter told their story, but then that actually became the prologue to his actual love story with his childhood bestie, Petra. So then Daphne ends up rooming with her total opposite, but only the one person who could understand the predicament she's in, which is Petra's ex, Miles. So I guess it's about how, like, you know, how they navigate that. And, you know, it says, how could Daphne possibly start her new chapter by falling in love with her ex-fiance's new fiance's ex? So this seems really good, and I'm really excited to read this one. The next books, I don't have hard copy, so I'd probably read them on my Kindle. So the first one is We Used to Live Here. This is like a horror thriller book, and it's this couple, they like move into this house, and he's at work one day and she has a knock on the door, and it's this like family with kids, and he's like, hey, like, we used to live here, can like we come in and like show the kids like the house and everything? And stupidly she says yes. So we're all screaming at her, probably not to say yes, but she lets them in, and obviously something escalates from that. The next book would be No Exit. So this book is about everyone's like stuck, I think, in some kind of weather predicament, and they're like at this like little station, and I'm pretty sure she sees a little girl who's like in this van, and they try and work out what's going on and how they can get her out of this situation. So once again, it's like a thriller kind of horror book. The next one is The Last Word. So this girl is like in this like remote location, and she reads this book and she gives it a 1-star review, says that she like didn't like it and all of this, and the author actually reads her review and he gets really angry about it, and he like starts sending like really mean emails and things like that, and I think maybe he ends up stalking her, not too sure. I'm gonna have to read it to find out. But that's also another thriller book, which I'm really, really excited for. I almost want to put it as my next read. And then I want to finish off the Dream Harbour series. So as you saw in my countdown, I have read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. The second book is The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which I haven't read yet. I do have it downloaded, ready to read. And then the third one is The Christmas Tree Farm, which actually I'm reading The Christmas Tree Farm on my Kindle right now because it's Christmas time. So I really wanted to read a Christmas book, and The Christmas Tree Farm is what appealed to me the most. So I have just skipped the second, and I will go back to it once I've read The Christmas Tree Farm. And then I think there's another one coming, and it's The Strawberry Patch Pancake House. I think all up there's going to be 5, but I'm not too sure what the other ones are about. But yeah, I'd really like to read all of them. The next one would be The Book of Doors. This is another fantasy, but it's in like a different fantasy world, not like A Court of Thorn or Roses. So I don't know much about it, but that's something I would really want to read. It just really intrigued me when I saw people talking about it and when I saw it on Goodreads. The next one is 2 series. So I want to read Chestnut Springs, which I've heard amazing things about that. It's by Elsie Silvers, I'm pretty sure. And people just rave about her books, and I'm really excited to read them. I'm pretty sure they're romance. I think some of them have a little bit of spice from what I've heard, so I'm very excited for those books. And then I want to read The Rebel Blue Ranch. So the first book is Done and Dusted, and I think they're like cowboy romances, which is something I'm not like, haven't read. Like I've more read like your Emily Henry and like your Hannah Grace kind of romance books. So I'd be interested to see how they go. So they are all of the books that I am looking forward to reading next year in 2025. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I will be back in the new year to talk more about my reviews, hopefully to read some of these books that I'm wanting to read that I talked about. But I hope everyone has a good Christmas, and I will see you again soon. Bye.